The Pretty Deadly pack has changed the game, whether you realize it or not.
Huh?
WWE 2k23's Pretty Deadly pack, the DLC, this is what you're receiving, the OC, the original club, Gallows and Anderson. You're also getting the upstart longtime tag team, Pretty Deadly, and the newest women's wrestler on the roster, Tiffany Stratton. But is it worth everything they put into it? This is the first DLC that has changed things forever. And if they're doing all DLC like this over everything you're getting, what you've already got, even if you didn't buy the DLC, and what this DLC means for the future of WWE games, because what they're doing with it is changing the landscape completely. Looks like things are changing around here. But there's also changing in WWE 2k23. That's right, this DLC, the Pretty Deadly pack, has changed the game, whether you realize it or not. So we're going over everything that was added. Of course, we'll get through the simple stuff first. If you just picked up the DLC pack or you're thinking about getting it, you are getting the OC, Gallows and Anderson as playable characters. You're getting Pretty Deadly Tag Team as playable character, and you're Tiffany Stratton as a playable character. But that's not all. If you did go ahead and pick it, we're going to talk about my faction cards that you got. Don't skip through this, Todd. I see you. We got to talk about the My Faction cards because it's important for the rest of today's story. So looking at these wonderful, horrible My Faction cards, we'll start things off here. By getting the Pretty Deadly pack, you also get cards for them all. You get, of course, Gallows and Anderson, and you get Pretty Deadly here, as we see, and then you get the magnificent Tiffany Stratton as your Sapphire card, which is very interesting because after you complete this pack, then you get the Mia Yim pack and the Candice LeRae pack. So that brings me to my first question. Was Mia Yim and Candice LeRae always part of this DLC and they were taken out? Well, it might not be, but it is something fun to think about. But that brings me to my next point. If you did not buy the DLC, this is very interesting how this works, is that AJ Styles is in the OC and Mia Yim has the OC as their manager. So whether you bought it or not, you will get cutscenes now in Universe or in your play now when you're going through as Mia Yim and AJ Styles, and Gallows and Anderson will interfere. They are not playable, but they will go ahead and give you the cutscenes so that they will interfere in the matches, which is the main point of this. This is something that we need to talk about. Is the DLC worth getting? In my opinion, if you're fans of Pretty Deadly and Gallows and Anderson, then yes. And if you love what Tiffany Stratton's doing, then absolutely grab the DLC. Of course, if you have the season pass, it comes with it. But there's a sticking point here, and that's what I want to address, is the fact of the way they added this DLC is unlike any of the other ways they've added DLC in any of the games ever. And here's what we actually need to talk about, is the fact that they've added this DLC into the game, and they went ahead and, yeah, it's great. You would think on the surface that it was just like any other DLC, but this time it's actually not, because this is integrated into the game whether you bought the DLC or not. So instead of the old ways of going through is you just download a little megabyte file of, oh, now that character's unlocked and he's in your game for you. This time around, it's not that way. They went ahead and added them into the game through the patch, not through actually downloading the DLC. And I know what you're thinking, what does this mean? Well, this is actually very important, and here's why. If you made it this far in the video, you're the people I'm talking to. Can you go ahead and hit that like button for me? That just sends it out so more people can see it. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit some subscriber goals to get this channel spread to the world, because I really want to help people understand all the ins and outs of the video games that we cover. Channel memberships are there. You do get emojis and all the fun stuff that come with being a member of the channel and exclusive content. Even more, how about this?
Chinese proverb says, a t-shirt It's worth 1,000 words.
The merch store is open. Check the channel. It's right there on the store. You can do all your shopping. We have t-shirts that you can buy. There are stickers that you can put on your car. Spread the word that Beach Bytes is there. To shower curtains. I mean, who wouldn't want a Beach Bytes beach towel? I mean, come on. They're pretty awesome. And if you don't want to do anything at all, that's cool too. Just thank you for watching the content. So, okay, maybe not everything's changing around here, but one thing that will never change is I will always tell you the truth, and I will always enlighten and entertain you. And what I'm going to enlighten you on is the fact that the reason why this DLC is so special, why this sets up the DLC for the rest of the year, because there's already plans in place from what we're seeing coming down the line with Yes, My Faction, Todd, is that they're changing the way the DLC comes in completely. And by doing this, it's twofold. One, for everyone that doesn't buy the DLC, it's free advertising by 2K. Because when you're playing as Mia Yim and AJ and they come in, you're going to be like, oh, I want to play as Gallows and Anderson. And you're going to fork out your money to pay for it if you haven't bought the DLC. So that's advertising. But two, the game is integrated completely now with the DLC. So it's going to give to the player that you feel like you're missing out on things because you're going to see exclusive cutscenes that you can't interact with, or you're going to have Gallows and Anderson come in and not be able to use them. And these are put in with patches, not with DLC. So they're putting this in with just the game patches already in place, expecting you now to buy these additions. This is where it comes in with the My Faction, is that My Faction has changed completely the way that they do it. This is a sports game now. It is not a good old grappler that we grew up with if you played the other 2K games. If you just jumped in, you played 22-23, then you're probably like, hey, Beach, what's the big deal? The big deal is that the future of this game and the future of this franchise is changing right before our eyes, and this is the first step in it. Is that by adding this in patches and then giving you an unlock key for the DLC instead of you having to download the DLC separately, they're going to keep adding and doing this. And could you imagine a world where we didn't have modders that put stuff in the game for us? Because there was a time back in the day, back in my day, where John Cena would have a t-shirt and then the game would come out and 2 weeks later he changed his t-shirt on TV and you'd have to wait till next year's game to get a t-shirt that was out of date. We are no longer in that era. We are, however, in the era of them adding DLC and adding new stuff to the game as we go. So from the original game that you bought to, if you didn't patch it, then you have a completely different game than you will at the end of the life cycle. But overall, with them changing and patching it this way, it's actually a great thing for the game coming down the line. Because by them putting them in as hard files and not just as unlock keys, it's adding new things to the game all the way around and integrating the DLC completely. It's pretty amazing. And if you don't pick up the DLC, you're still getting free things. We saw with the Steiner Row pack that you got Scott Steiner's entrance for free, even though you didn't buy the DLC. With this, you are getting a glimpse of Gallows and Anderson, and the DLC works correctly. Couple hiccups they are having with it, where this is a test for WWE 2k24, is you notice every time they put in a new patch, Hulk Hogan's beard changes. It's because when they're patching it in, they're patching this in over on top of the wrestlers and not just your unlock key that's just adding additions to your game. They are putting this DLC and hardwiring it into the game with each patch, which is having some hiccups, but as they continue to get things figured out, as you see, we're constantly testing what works, what doesn't work. And I mean, come on, this year we got war games. Next year, who knows what we're going to get because they keep integrating the system. I am pretty excited for what the future of this game holds, even though it's a headache sometimes that they just can't get it right out the gate, which I mean, but it's video games, guys. They're getting it right. They're actually working to do something good with it, even though I don't agree with everything they do in My Faction. But that's a topic for another time. Let me know in your comments below what you guys think about the DLC and how you think that they're adding it in. Do you like the way they're doing this, or do you miss the old ways of just, oh, if I purchase it, I get something. If I don't, I don't. like it overall for the future of the franchise. It is, like I said, a headache for trying to fix things, but we will fix the things that they break the best we can. Comment down below what you guys think of the set. Do you like the old set? Do you like the new set? Do you want a new set? Do you care about the set? Did it even matter? Did you even notice? All these, I have questions, and only you can answer them for me. If you're looking for more WWE content, check out those videos right there. They are pretty awesome and will help you along your journey as WWE 2K23 carries on. Remember, make life your beach. We'll see you on the next video.